What's up, folks, and welcome back to the Pause Rewind Play podcast, a place for movies, a place for friends, and a place for you. But
sorry, that was dope. Just like, did you just make that up on the spot?
I just made it up on the spot. But anyway, we're back. We're here. We're hanging out. We're talking movies, and we're stoked. We're stoked to be here. So we hope you are too. As you can tell from the title, we're talking about A Quiet Place, John Krasinski's masterpiece. I know there are other people that helped to make it, but freaking John Krasinski. But anyhow, it's been a minute since we've been talking, so we got the regular cast here. We got Vince and Josh. And Vince, how you been, man?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Nothing exciting really is going on.
That's exactly what it sounded like when you responded. I'm here.
I'm here.
You doing good, though?
Yeah. I guess, no, yeah, there's like really nothing off the top of my head.
So I know, like, not to get controversial or anything here, but you're going to be able to go boating this year. That's something that you
probably not.
Love to do, and we talk about every summer.
So the lake that we usually go to back home where we grew up is basically empty already. Like the summer hasn't even started and it's already empty.
Yeah.
We're in like a super drought here. Like it's so bad. So that probably won't happen at all. And if that lake is already empty, then the other one, our backup lake is probably really low. So we might get a trip out to like Lake Powell this year at some point. I think my family has like a big trip planned to Lake Powell at some point. But other than that, I don't think it's really going to happen. I think it's going to be a pretty dry summer full of hiking, I guess. Maybe go swim in those mountain lakes.
Yeah, you got to do the polar plunges into the mountain lakes.
Polar plunges.
I feel you, man. I feel you. Josh, how are you, man?
I'm good. Just been hanging out lately. A lot of work, a lot of craziness. My aunt and cousins, they did just get a couple of new Labrador puppies.
Shout out to those cute dogs.
Oh my goodness, they are gorgeous. I have visited them. They got them 2 days ago. 3 days ago, I don't know, something like that, and I've already visited them twice and love like every minute of it because they live just up the road from me, luckily. So it's like it's a weird balance because on one hand I visit these puppies and it cures like my puppy fever, you know, of like loving the dogs and whatever, but then on the other hand I see and I play with these puppies and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but I want another one, you know. Like, so I'll have to keep visiting them a lot to sort of tide that over. But you know, besides that, nothing much. Just been hanging out, watching TV, walking my dog. The normal.
The important stuff in life.
Obviously. What about you, Case?
I've been keeping it chill, doing housework, yard work, finishing up them projects that kind of went on hold when I was doing school, you know, like just that kind of stuff.
Y'all finished up on school?
Yes, I did it. I passed all my classes.
Nice.
I got 2 A's and a D+.
Still passing.
And I'm really proud of that D+. Like, I don't care who you are. A D+ is passing if your department says it's passing. And guess what? The allegedly C's and D's get you degrees, but also the people who get A's and B's will work for you eventually. So who knows? Maybe when I hit 60, I'll be the boss.
Yeah, they're not looking at the grades specifically. They're just making sure you have a degree.
Yeah, that's all I want is that piece of paper. Because I've actually, like, this is kind of crazy. And, like, it's funny because I have a lot of skills to pay the bills, you know, but I've been like rejected because like, oh, you have great experience, but like you don't have your degree finished. And I'm like, I do that on my own time outside of work. It's not a big deal. And people are like, hey, nope. So I don't know, but I've actually started learning UX because that's kind of been my interest these days.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah, but also I had never read the Hunger Games books. I don't know if you have. I never have. So I bought the audiobooks and have listened to 2.5 books in 6 days.
Nice.
And there's cool stuff in the books that isn't in the movies for sure. And that's what happens all the time. We know that. But that's been fun. That's been a big part of my thing. And then I watched all of Ted Lasso this week. So that's where I'm at in life. Ted Lasso is great. Good recommendation, Vince.
I told you it was great. It's just such a happy show. It's so optimistic. I love it. Ted Lasso is just the most optimistic man in the world.
But there's also some heavy stuff covered.
There
in
is.
it.
There
That's
is.
what's wild is I was like not expecting some things.
Yeah, like it gets serious, but just like this Ted Lasso is just going through like a hard time, and he just does it all with a smile, and it just I just want to be like that.
Yeah.
Want to be able to go through the hard times and just do it with a smile and still give people cookies.
Yeah. Special biscuits, man.
Special biscuit.
But anyhow, do you guys have any noteworthy movie stuff you've been watching, doing anything like that?
I finally started, after multiple people have asked me to, I finally started The Handmaid's Tale, and I'm in the second season, and I'm digging it super hard right now. The only bad thing is that since I'm like binging it pretty fast, is I thought that I would like slowly binge it, and so then I would catch up, because the fourth season's happening right now, and they release episodes like each week, right? But they're still like towards like the beginning half of this season. It's like episode 5 or 6 right now or something, and they usually do like 10 to 13 or something, depends. But I'm going a lot faster than I thought I would, so I'll probably catch up and then have to play that waiting game each week, which I don't dig.
It kind of sucks. My wife, so Allie and I, we actually were like all caught up, except we had to stop after I think week 4 or 5. Like we were just like, this was heavy, and
I
so
hear it's getting crazy. Like
it's wild. I don't want to like go, but like what a heavy show, what a good show, and what a wild world they live in. It's just kind of nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, mostly just that for me, and then I'm just looking forward to a lot of stuff that's coming up. I don't know why, probably because it got moved or something, but me and my friend who's moving to Texas, Cade, we've had on the podcast before, we both thought for some reason that Black Widow was supposed to come out May 7th, because I think it was at one point before it got moved, and
at
we were
one
like,
point it was.
we were like planning on watching it together, and then when I went to look up stuff about it, it's like July 9th, and I'm like, what is this garbage? Like, what is this bull crap? So
I got pushed back a lot.
looking forward to that one, and then obviously the reason why we're doing today's movie is A Quiet Place Part 2 comes out in 2 weeks.
Is that going to be in theaters only?
In theaters only. I am down.
Back to the movies.
Well, here's the question. Are they going to do it in theaters only for like 45 days like a lot of things, or is it just going to be a definite in theaters only?
I think that they're going to do a solid run in theaters. I think this is a big movie to try to get people back in theaters, and it's the experience that John Krasinski wants. Because, I mean, you guys remember, like, not to get into the movie too far already, but like you guys remember like watching this movie in the theater, it really was like an experience. Like Casey was talking to me, because we just watched it here before we started the podcast. Casey was talking to me about when we went and saw it at the theater, and he had like popcorn or something.
I was
Just
eating
any food. You're like, it's crazy. That theater experience is just something else, and it's really what they want. It's really what they're going for. I think they had this movie all but ready last year, but they didn't want to release it any other way but in a theater. So if you have any means necessary, and if it's safe, see it in the theater, because that's how it's meant to be experienced, and it puts it on a whole nother level. Like we've talked a lot on the podcast about how movie theaters are changing, how it will change after all of the pandemic with streaming services and everything that's going on. There will still be some things that it's just better to experience that way. So I'd say go do it.
100% I agree with you, because that's just such a difference of experience. Like we watched the movie here at the house, and like my TV is fine. The sound on my TV is fine.
Oh, guys, that's something. I got a new sound bar. That's something new. So I decided to go. So my old sound bar was giving me issues. When I was watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, whenever the guy who plays the Falcon talks, he has a really deep voice, and it would make it like rumble the soundbar weird. So I went and bought a new one that's got the Atmos built into it. It's a Vizio, so it's not one of the super expensive ones, but it was expensive for me.
Yeah.
But it sounded great with this movie. Like between this and some of the action movies that I put in, that surround sound, I don't know if the Atmos, and that might be like a cool thing about it, is like the Atmos is so good that you can't tell or whatever, because it's like you're in the experience. But I didn't realize how bad my old soundbar was until I got this one. It sounds great. So if you guys want a recommendation, it's a really nice soundbar.
We should get on like, what is it, like Prime Partners or whatever, and like put a link in our bio so people go look at it.
Yeah.
We make some money off that. Dude, I've actually wanted to bring this up for a few times. I'm going to have to eat crow on this and take back what I said about building a home theater system. Like, I really want to get a surround sound system now.
It's worth it. I spend a lot of time in front of my TV, so I want the best experience I can have.
Well, that's what I've been thinking about, too, because, like, half the time I'll even put in my headphones. Like, put on my, like, nice over-the-ear headphones and just listen to movies that way because the sound is so much better and, like, you can hear the details. And I don't know. I think I want to get, like, surround sound and soundbar. Like, I've been thinking about it a lot.
I'll send you the link to this one. You can decide if you want it.
You gonna get some kickback on that?
On what?
You're gonna get that extra cash
that
from
extra
recommending
cash
it.
for recommending it. That's what I was saying.
Oh.
Like, if you send me the link, or you like, what is that called?
No,
Use
I
code
wish.
promo
Just be an
code Vince in
Amazon.
the stores.
Yeah. It'll just be a Best Buy or an Amazon link. It'll be
Yeah.
nothing.
Perfect.
Well, a
But,
lot of
you know,
times-
there's a finder's fee. You can always send-
I will send you 4
No.
Shiba coins.
Nothing. I'd rather not have that.
There's
How dare you support the thing that's being promoted as the Doge killer?
Listen, I'm just making sure that my portfolio is rounded. So if by chance the world shines upon me, my
There you
$8 investment would repay back greatly. But anyhow, we need to get back on track. Where were we?
Well, I've got a couple movies that I watched that need a shout out.
Okay.
The first one, Mortal Kombat came out. Did either of you guys watch Mortal Kombat?
No, but I wanted to, and I
Really?
need to know how it was.
Why didn't either of you watch Mortal Kombat? It's Mortal Kombat.
I never played Mortal Kombat as a kid growing up.
Oh,
You know
and you
how
probably
my-
never saw the original movie too either.
Oh,
then,
I didn't
huh?
know
Oh,
that there was original.
Oh,
movie.
there's two. There's one like 90s movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had no clue.
back
so.
to back 90s movies.
Well, what's your excuse then?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Just laziness.
All you have to do is lay down and keep your eyes open.
But here's
That's
the
the
thing.
hard part.
When Josh came over today, I was trying to watch one specific section of the extremely goofy movie, and I fell asleep.
All right. Well,
I'm just lazy.
it's okay. It's not an amazing movie, but it's entertaining enough. So, you know, if you want to watch it, it's there.
Is that one of those that will only be on HBO Max for a little bit and then it'll
Yeah.
go off?
I'm pretty sure. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but it's one that is supposed to go to theaters. But it's entertaining, especially if you're like a Mortal Kombat video game fan. If you grew up playing it, there's a lot of references to the game, or even just to like the way people played the game. There's references to even that. So I don't know if you'll really appreciate it then, Josh. But the action's decent. It's really gory. It's fun.
Sounds like everything I want in the movie, actually.
Yeah.
So I was actually talking to some people today, and they were like talking about what oh gosh, I keep making a mess. I'm podcasting off a trash can, guys, because I want to sit on the floor. But anyhow, we're talking about movies and just kind of like why I like talking about movies, right? And I was like, the thing is like within our podcast, you know, we each bring different strengths and different like enjoyable things about the film, you know, like some of us like the details and how it was built, like that kind of stuff. The soundtracks, we can all appreciate that kind of stuff. But I'm just like, I'm like the guy who's just like, I love the movie and the story and the gory action, like nothing else. That's what I enjoy. I'm just kidding. That gives me a lot of bad credentials, but
No, man.
it's
You're the everyday. You're the everyday guy.
yeah. I'm just like your average Joe for once in my lifetime.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's one movie that you guys have to put on your list and watch it, because I absolutely loved this movie so much. It's on Netflix. Just dropped like 2 weeks ago. It's by the famous Lord and Miller, who did the Lego Movie and Into the Spider-Verse and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh, that's a classic.
They just released a movie on Netflix that is one of my favorite movies, I think, now. Like, I would say one of my favorite animated movies. Have you guys heard of The Mitchells versus the Machines?
I've seen like
No.
a million trailers. It's blowing up on Netflix right now.
It's so good. It's so funny. The animation is incredible. They, you know how in Into the Spider-Verse, they kind of like had their own animation style of 3D mixed with 2D. It's just an evolution on that in this one. It looks awesome. It's all in 3D, but they have like 2D animations like drawn over the top. It's over the top, silly, meme jokes. It kind of reminded me of like Pixar mixed with like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or something. Just like it's just
You
fun.
just lifted up your skirt and showed me them ankles, and here I am, ready to watch this now.
Check it out. It's got a great message, great voice actors. Like I said, it's just visually pleasing to look at, and it's just funny. It has a pug in it, and the pug is just every time. I thought the pug would get old after a while, the pug jokes. No, it's funny every single time. So check that one out if you haven't.
All right.
Done. Listed.
You got it.
Yeah, watch that one before you watch Mortal Kombat. Even though Mortal Kombat will be gone first, watch Mitchell's versus the Machines first.
All right. Well, watch that. Then watch Mortal Kombat.
Did you say what you've been watching, Case?
I've watched some Ted Lasso. Watched some Mad Men. No more Bald and Bankrupt for me for a minute. What am I watching? We watched The Hunger Games, and that's what sparked me speed reading through the audiobooks, speed listening, whatever you want to call it. 1.5 speed, baby. But other than that, nothing. I've been just mostly dedicated to that and doing stuff around the house. So
Nice.
It's been a busy week. What about you?
I think we already did me, so I think we're at everyone, right?
I feel like a skip
'Cause
record then.
I just did A Handmaid's Tale and nothing else. Kind of rewatching Community, but that's always.
All right, guys.
now.
I really need to know. So you guys have been trying to get me to watch Community for a while now. Is it really that I should watch Community because it's like a quality series, or is it because you have nostalgia and love for it?
No, it's a quality series.
It's a quality series. So, like, obviously, every list of any kind that will ever be made of a lot of things will be objective, depending on the people. But the Rolling Stones made a list of, like, the top 100, like, sitcoms of all time. And, like, Friends and How I Met Your Mother and The Big Bang Theory and stuff, they all came in, like, 90s, 80s, 70s and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Community was in, like, the 20s or 30s, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
For, like, the top 100 of all time. And it's, like, it's just an extremely meta series of, like, characters, like, in the show, like, indirectly, obviously, referencing the fact that they're in a TV show. But it still just tell their stories. And then after the first season, it kind of, not all the way, but kind of just stops like trying to tell a very linear story. And it just makes each episode a meta reference to some film or like
an homage.
Yeah.
Like to Star Wars or to Alien or a zombie movie or Secret Garden or just like everything you can think of. Like
Sorry.
it's so creative, and it's written by Dan Harmon, the guy who does Rick and Morty. So
it's worthy of a watch.
It's worth a watch. I mean, the cast is stellar. Like, you can hate Chevy Chase as much as you want. He's still
still one of my favorite characters.
Chevy
in
Chase,
the show.
as problematic as Chevy Chase is still a comedian and still funny, and you will laugh at his performances, right?
Yeah, and you can hate him, but that's like what he's meant to do a lot of times.
Yes,
Joel
kind of plays the bad guy in that show.
Allison Brie, Yvette
So
Nicole
Allison
Brown.
Brie couldn't be in Mad Men more because she was too busy in Community, I found out the other day. And then I was like, well, maybe I should give it more of a thought. That's really what brought this up, was Mad Men.
And Donald Glover, man. Danny Putty. Sorry, I gotta say all of them now, you know. Ken Jeong. Just that entire cast is just completely amazing. And even the side characters who literally exist throughout the entire show, like, they have their hilarious moments. And it's also so meta because, like, what is it, in the 6th season? Yeah, it is, because that's when Patrick Brewster shows up. When, like, the side characters, it's like Vicky and that guy with the afro on, like, the Crisis episode with the dog.
The guy with the afro?
Yeah. So I think he was...
I don't remember that one.
I think he was like the rollerblading one, but then later on he's in the series, and Vicky and him are talking, and they're like, "Why do they need all of this stuff from us at 5 a.m.?" And she's like, "You know how it is with these ones. We'll be lucky if we get 2 words in before," and then they cut it and start talking or something. It's because they're this. Oh my goodness, them, Garrett. Like, I could talk about Community all day. You know me. Like, we should probably focus back up.
So maybe here's what I'll do. I will watch the first season before our next podcast, and then I'll return and report. That's my promise to you guys.
That's the deal. If you want to like stop ever, I'd be totally fine with that. But if you make it through the first 2.5 to 3 seasons, I would be happy. Because season 4 kind of crazy and weird. And then season 5 and season 6 sort of get back on track. But I'd say they're definitely not like the first seasons.
Yeah.
They're a lot shorter, and like it just kind of changed a lot of the vibe. But those first 3 seasons are some of the most gold comedy that ever has existed on the face of this planet. It's incredible.
All right, I accept your explanations and your reasoning, and I commit to taking a gander into it next time we meet together.
And I'll commit to, when I get caught up on The Handmaid's Tale, watch Letterkenny so I can talk about it with you
Oh
guys.
gosh, yes, we need to do it. Pitter patter, let's do it. Come on now, let's do it. Pitter patter. No.
All right.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the film we are here to talk about, A Quiet Place, in which I'm gonna tone my voice down now and talk very quietly because we can't make a sound. Psych. Just kidding. I'm in the safe world. But anyhow, A Quiet Place is a 18 film.
My number 1 film of 2018.
That's what he says.
Vince got the movie info?
Yeah, I got the info here.
Perfect.
So, this movie came out April 6, 2018, directed by John Krasinski, written by Brian Woods and Scott Beck. It had a budget of $17 million, and it grossed over $340 million. It was really close to the $341 million mark. Critics gave it a 96%, and audiences have given it 82%. And that's on Rotten Tomatoes or Flixster, Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb gave it a 7.5, which I was surprised that it was kind of low, like for IMDb with a 7.5. Expected it with especially like the critic and the audience score over on Rotten Tomatoes being as high as they are. I thought it would be higher on IMDb, but
It's like an 8, man. Come on.
Starring Emily Blunt as Evelyn Abbott, John Krasinski as Lee Abbott, Millicent Simmons as Regan Abbott, and Noah Jupp as Marcus Abbott. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Millicent Simmons, Utah native, right?
She is.
Yes.
From Draper, I believe, ? I read a thing about it the other day.
Her address is... No, I'm just kidding.
She lives up by the aquarium.
I don't know, but yes, you're correct. She is
Pretty
Utah
cool.
native.
Pretty cool that we have some connection to the actress in it.
Actress, which obviously we're doing this film because the second one is coming out, and maybe Casey and Vince, but I at least am crazy super hyped for this second movie just because I loved the first one so much, and I'm just super excited. So in case you didn't know from the first one, or if you haven't watched, I guess, number 1, please go watch the movie first and listen to the podcast, because it's an amazing film that, while I love the content we put out, I think that movie might deserve your attention a little bit more first, and then you can come listen to our reactions about said amazing film. And then, so Millicent Simmons plays the daughter who is deaf, right? And she is a real deaf actress. It's what they were looking for the film. They wanted to cast someone who knew sign language and was believable in that role, and so they decided to try and find an actress who was actually deaf, and I think they hit it on the head with her.
And I think that's awesome. As a person who looks for representation in movies, I do it all the time. For people who are deaf, I think it's cool to see someone come into the spotlight, and to especially not just some sort of low budget film that went nowhere, but to a film that blew up, and that she stands so tall as the character, and it's believable, scary. It makes you wonder about the world. The way that they sound edited this whole film, it stands so beautifully. They did great.
And not even just that, she was in it. She was incredible.
Yeah,
in this
great.
movie. She won, I believe, a couple of awards for best young actor, actress, in a film. I believe there's it's either a Golden Globe or something else that has an award that's like that, and she won for that year, and I thought it was incredibly well deserved. She's amazing in her portrayal.
Totally, I agree. And I sorry, I don't want to just downplay her because she's what do you want to call it? A charity hire, for instance. She's a great actress. So please don't let me just be oh, we need people because they are this. She earned her spot and has earned her keep. She's great.
Impressed with the entire cast of the movie.
All 5.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very small cast. It's a very small movie, like in general, and that's kind of what I'm worried about with the sequel. I'm kind of worried. I mean, it works in the past. You have Alien, that's more of a small movie, and then there's Alien 2 that's like leans into the action movie. So they could do something in the sequel with this. But what I love the most about this movie is just how small scale everything is. And like I said, the actors are just incredible. They made me care about this family of 4, 5. How many are there? 4.
For the beginning.
6 total over time. But
Oh, yeah.
But they made me care about this family without the use of really almost any dialogue. It's all, I mean, they have subtitles, but most of it is just, experiencing this story through the eyes and the feelings of the actors that are portraying them. John Krasinski, even the kid, the little brother, like, was very believable the way that he portrayed being scared, not wanting to leave the house. The moment out at the river with his dad and how terrified he was, you just see it in his face like that. Even that kid did such a good job. And that's what I was most impressed with the movie, is just like they made me care so much about this family in like 40 minutes. Because the first 40 minutes is all just kind of, you have that initial, we're into spoilers here. You have the initial death of the son. And then after that, you're just getting like character development and world building and figuring out kind of what's going on and how they're dealing with these problems. And then about halfway through the movie, it doesn't waste any time and gets right to the action, the horror, the scary stuff. And within that 40 minutes, you're just connected to this family and everything that's going on and just care about them and want them the best for them.
Exactly. I want to talk a little bit more later about like what we're thinking about with the second one coming out and what we hope and what we think will be different and stuff. But that's one of the definitely the biggest things. Is I was talking to Casey about this. Is I like how like closed circuit they made this movie, because the movie, while it's in an insane situation, it's not about like what's happening to the world right now. It's about what's happening to this family in this situation with all of this happening. And so they really made it closed circuit. They just dropped you in the middle. They didn't give you the information about like how this really came about, other than some newspaper articles, going by on the screen. They drop you into the situation. They let you know what the animal aliens are, what they do, and then they just like let you go. They give you the family and they make you care about them, like you said, and gets into the action. So just the fact that the world was so small and just focused on this family and not about the outside world and everything else that was happening. It was literally only focused in on their story, with the mom being pregnant and their other son passing away, and the daughter and John Krasinski dealing with that in their own different ways, and their personal relationship growing over the course of this film. And we already said we're in spoilers, the father's death at the end and what it meant for the family, and him being able to talk to his daughter in a way that he probably hadn't for a while. I love that it was so internally focused while still being a thrilling ride, like, of a film. And we'll talk, I'm sure, in just a bit about like the sound and the way that they use silence and everything. But just like, I love that they kept it so.
Yeah,
I'll just say
too.
closed circuit again, because I can't think of another way to say it. They just kept it like this. But then, like I said, I'll talk about it later. But like, the second movie, the first movie, even though I love that it stayed within there, it did leave me wondering like what else is happening in the world. Obviously, like, there are other people, like we saw the old man and stuff, that have survived this long and stuff. What else is going on? And also, how did this come to be? And from the trailers, we're going to see both of those in the second movie.
So is the second one going to be a prequel, or it's
It's
a
a
sequel,
combination,
but it's
right?
got
I
a
think it's a
prequel moment?
I think it's
right?
got prequel moments, because you see like John Krasinski, like, people are watching TV as it's like breaking out or whatever is happening. So I think there's like moments where it flashes back, but I think the main action will be posterior.
Okay.
It'll be after the events of the film, because you see Emily Blunt with the baby, and that's when Cillian Murphy and what's his name?
Noah Jupe? No.
The guy who's in Guardians of the Galaxy, the very beginning.
I can't say his name. Diamond?
I don't know. So the guy in
I don't think I've watched
This
that
guy
trailer
right here.
since- Oh, okay.
yeah, who has like the really like bright eyes.
Yes.
I think he does in real life too, right? Because I know in Guardians of the Galaxy he has like some like white contacts or something.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because, like I said, I agree with everything you said. I love how small scale and personal this movie is, and I worry that a franchise can be ruined based on screwing up the sequels. I mean, how many franchises have we seen this happen with? Like a good horror movie comes out and they make a ton of money, and they're like, let's go bigger. It can only get better, and we can only make more money if we go bigger. And then it just drops the ball, and it makes the sequel kind of suffers, or the original kind of suffers, because they add stuff, answers to things that you don't really want the answers to. Because kind of the mystery is kind of the fun of it. You can kind of fill those gaps in yourself. I mean, these monsters that they introduced in this movie, I assume they're aliens or something. I don't really know, but holy crap, I loved them. Like the design of these monsters is just so good, and the idea of the thing that makes them the strongest is actually also their weakness, is such a cool idea. But I guess I keep coming back to the Alien franchise. This is where it worked, If I would have saw the original Alien franchise, I probably would be saying the same thing, I don't want to see the xenomorph. I don't want it to turn into an action movie with a million xenomorphs chasing them down. But they made it work, and they made that second one really, really good. I say the same thing about these monsters, where I'm like, I don't really want to see them as, a horde coming running in, but maybe I do. I don't really know. I'm so worried
how
is the
many
problem.
there are, because like these species, based off what I read on the forums, right? Like, who knows if this is true, but like these are like super beings. There's nothing. There's no frills on them. They have these arms that are knives built in. They can cut through metal and everything. They can run like miles in seconds at a time. They're super fast. And then on top of it, they just honing systems. They can swim. Dude, the swimming part is the scariest part of that for me. Like the thing, like
that's freaky.
Like probably down there like hunting fish. I don't know. It's wild.
So what do you want from a sequel, Casey? Yeah. Would you want them to lean into the action aspect like an Alien 2, or do you want them to continue with kind of a small scale family story like they're like?
What if I want a mid-size version of this?
What would that be?
I don't quite want a full van. I want that minivan. So let's just say like we had like 5 characters pretty much the whole film, right?
Is there any movies like that you can think of that would be comparable? Like a 28 Days Later, maybe?
28 Days Later, maybe, or maybe like something like Prometheus.
Hitting Cillian Murphy again there.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Like Prometheus, where you have, so it's like similar to Alien, right? Like you just have like, because in Prometheus it starts out with like 25 characters in it.
I would argue Prometheus is way bigger though.
Why?
Just in scale, like there's just so much more going on.
I guess there is a lot more going on, but I'm saying like, let's just say I want 100-mile radius of action going on. Like they have to get from point A to point B to relay some information type thing on. Here's this cochlear implant that Lee fixed for us, and it actually destroys the hearing of the animal, and we can pop one off. And that's where Cillian Murphy comes in and takes off, and we don't see him anymore.
So I think for me, what I would like is because I love Cillian Murphy, and I want him to be like a decent like part of this movie, and I want him to sort of provide background and give us information as to what's like going on with the world, and just sort of broaden the horizons that way, and like give us information. And maybe the key piece of information, because they've been talking about like where she's like, there's people, they need to be saved, and he's like, you can't save them and stuff, blah blah. And so like he kind of like gives them that information that may lead them on like the main like quest or just like adventure part of the movie, like with whatever they're doing. But I think when it comes down to it, I want the big action or final like action sequences to be like her and the kids, like the family, like fighting the monsters. And I don't even mind if like Cillian Murphy's there, but I want it to come down to the family protecting each other and doing their thing, and or maybe like saving other people. But I want it to still be so focused on the family, because that's what made the first one so great.
But like, how can that happen when, like, I'm not trying to like discredit anyone's abilities, right? But like the kid is like 7, Like he's probably more like 12 or something. I don't know. The girl's like 15, and then you got a new baby and a woman who just had a baby, right? Like,
Because they're badass.
I like, and mind you, like I love a good out of this world film, but like this film in a way was set in such a realistic tone. Like, what would happen? Like, think about it. We would lose doctors. We would lose so many things. Like, they couldn't just send off her cochlear implant to get a replacement piece. He had to like fiddle with it. They had no communication with people to get a new one. Like, I just want it to be. I don't want it to become so unrealistic. I get it that these are alien monsters from outer space on a meteorite, whatever. But I don't want it to be. Like, I don't want us to be going from Iron Man to Endgame in one movie type thing is what I mean. I want it to build as well. Very slowly. I want them to do what they can, and I want them to struggle still. And I don't want it to be like, oh, so easy. I don't know. I'm
not saying that freaking Emily Blunt's about to like 360 no scope like these guys off of the top of the freaking Eiffel Tower or something
she only has
like
a shotgun
that.
Too.
Yeah, okay. Then it doesn't have a scope. There you go. 360 no scope. I'm not like saying like that's going to happen. I'm just saying that when it comes down to it, even if it's just like one, like they find that there's one alien who's like, it's not like it's like some like god or king of them or something, but maybe it has some sort of like mini extra, or it's just like a strong one that's kind of been pursuing them the whole movie. It kind of comes down to like another like 1v1 fight where they've been having struggles and they have to like take them on.
So this is starting to feel like the Live, Die, Repeat film that Tom Cruise was in.
And
like
Emily Blunt.
Yeah, oh my goodness. This is freaking deja vu here. But like, that's what I'm meaning is like, could there be like a prime or something like that has control of everyone? Could they like bring everyone in and set up little traps for them? Like, I don't know.
Because I don't think I want them to like save the world.
That's
like
what I'm worried
in
about.
this second one. I don't want them to be like the world is. I just want them to like have some sort of like besides because obviously as we've seen in the trailers, they're not just staying in the farmhouse, right? They're going out, and Cillian Murphy is kind of the one who will likely give them information about what's going on in the world. Likely give them some sort of objective, which will be like helping a certain group of people, and I'm hoping that they can do that and maybe take out like another like monster or little mini like set of the aliens. But yeah, I don't want the world to be saved by conquering Optimus Prime Alpha alien man who beams down from outer space in order to face Emily Blunt and Millicent Simmons' hearing aid, you know. So
that sounds like something that would have been ad-libbed in Rick and Morty on like their interdimensional cable or whatever. But I don't know. I think whatever it is, it's gonna be good. I hope that they've taken the time to polish it up because the actual initial release was in 2020. They did the first screening, and then they've had a year to work on it.
Because it was like, if I'm not mistaken, it was scheduled for like March, like 20th, I believe. So like, it was coming out. It wasn't like, hey, this is planned, and then oh no, we kind of missed some stuff. Like it was ready to come out. You know, and then just right as it was about to come out. Because I remember Onward was March 6th, and I went and I saw that in theaters before everything shut down. So it was probably a week and a half or less away from being released when they nixed all the theaters and everything. So, like, polish stuff up or just, like, make sure that everything is exactly how they want it to be. They probably had, like, test audiences and stuff in that time, just, like, mini, very strong, like, or very small versions, and they're able to change some stuff, obviously, but I don't want to be let down, but I'm also like super hyped, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing where I think we need to sit down and say, whatever it is, we'll take it, because it's not coming out as like a B film. Like the original cast is reprising their roles as much as they can, right? But I think that, like, not to put John Krasinski in a corner, but like, better be good type thing, right? Like that's what I want. And I don't know. I think that the first film, like, has so many good qualities that I think that if they're smart, they can carry him over successfully, and we can continue to love the film the way that his original vision played out in the first, as long as that's still the vision for the second.
So let's say that, sorry, I'm trying to remember the name. 1 second. So let's say that Get Out, Jordan Peele's directorial debut, comes out, and that's rated. I'm not saying like that it's perfect, but I'm just saying that that's at 100%, okay, Us comes out, and I think the general opinion of most people is obviously Us is good, but it's not as good as Get Out. I personally would be like, Us was good, not as good as Get Out. I'd say it's like 85-90% of like what like Get Out was, as far as like what I liked and what I loved and it being different and stuff. Obviously, it's not a sequel to the same movie. We've got John Krasinski releases A Quiet Place. He gets massive attention. I could definitely be wrong, but I think nominated for Oscars in like sound design and sound editing and stuff like that. Which I obviously want to talk about the sound as well. The second one is coming out. I think if it can at least hit that like 85%, 90% of the first one, I will be like satisfied, because to do something that would be as good or better than the first one, especially with the idea already being out there, would be a major feat. That would just be insane. Like, that would be incredible, and I would be happy if it happened, but I think it's very unlikely. So if it hits sort of like that range, I will be pleased and at least like satisfied with what happened. I'd be like, okay, this was like definitely like a worthwhile movie endeavor to have happen. So,
I agree. Well, let's break down a little bit more out of what the second film is going to be like, and tell me your favorite thing about this film.
I thought it was really cool to see an end of the world movie from the perspective of someone in middle America and not like in the big cities. Like I feel like a lot of the zombie movies we see are always taking place in like big metropolitan areas, and this one was just like, what would happen if the world broke down and you lived in a small town, I felt like it was more relatable having grown up in a small town, that you can kind of see like in that moment where John Krasinski's character goes up on top of the big tower and lights the fire, and you see all the like fires pop up around town. It's like, or around the forest or whatever.
Now all of China knows you're here.
And I just thought to myself, it's just like, oh, like that's their support. Every night they go up to make sure everyone's doing okay. And like if one of those fires burns out, that something bad happened to Steve down the street or whatever. I thought it was really cool that like in these small towns you have these really tight knit communities, and they're probably all really helping each other. If someone's crop doesn't grow one season, I'm sure they're there helping each other out. And so I thought that was really cool to see kind of this like perspective from a middle American family, who just care about, the community and the people that are around them that they love. I thought that was a really cool thing. Really surprised how well the scares worked for me this time around, because I haven't seen this since the theater. But the first couple of scares, I'm just like, this isn't going to be scary. I remember this making me jump or whatever, and the first couple of scares didn't get me. By the end of the movie, I jumped probably 4 times, including the time where Emily Blunt's in the shower and smacks the wall. That got me good.
I've watched this movie multiple times since it came out, because I bought it on Amazon Prime, and I've owned it. So I've watched it multiple times, and so I know like when most of them are coming up and stuff. I forgot about that one. I don't know what happened, but it happened, and I jumped hard.
Yeah, it gets
very bad.
It got me too. And then just like that, what's so impressive about this movie is it's a family drama at heart. It's a horror, like a jump scare horror, but it also has the kind of gore horror as well, with the dang nail in the stairs. Like it's not like way gory like something like Saw or something, but the anticipation for someone to step on that nail, it's worse than it actually happening, worse than actually seeing it happen. And I felt that way both times having seen this movie. As soon as that nail pulls up, you just groan. It's just like, oh, I'm going to have to watch someone step on that freaking nail. And when it happens, you just feel it, and it's in the worst possible moment for this woman who's just like about to have a baby. There's monsters that just happen to like show up at that moment because bad things start to happen. So it's just like everything is building up to this moment for her, this terrible situation. And then that dang nail, she's going down the stairs, and it's just like you're just not ready for it.
That one gets me every time. And I don't know if either of you have ever stepped on a nail.
No, but
like I feel it so every time. It's just like remembering, because it went in my heel. When I was younger, like I stepped on a nail, it went into my heel, and I remember that every time. And so when she steps on it, I'm like, Like,
This woman is so strong.
yeah, I squealed like a little child because I was like 10, but like she just like literally like
It's just every
I
time,
don't know how to
everything.
describe it.
Yeah. But everything that she goes through in this, just the pain that she goes through, stepping on the nail, having the baby, and having to do it all in complete silence, and the build up to that moment when she's actually having the kid where she just can't hold it anymore and just like lets out that scream and it just cuts so you don't know whether or not she's going to die. Like it's just so well done throughout this whole thing. It's a really good family drama, like I said. It's a really good horror movie. It's just everything is done so well and it's just really impressive to me.
For me, in two ways, sound, the way that they use sound and music throughout the movie is obviously one of the best parts of the entire film for me. So sound, both in the use of silence and in the use of jump scares, and how they, they play with like the aliens' ears and what they're hearing and everything like that. Just like we mentioned it before, the experience of seeing this movie in the theater was something else, just because of how much silence there was. Because in the movie, silence is literally something that was required for these people to stay alive. And so it wasn't just like, oh yeah, like they're quiet, whatever. Like you can feel how abnormal everything is, because even in a regular daily activity like eating dinner or playing Monopoly, these people are being as silent as possible. So any sort of large sound makes you jump, it makes you nervous, it makes you just feel crazy, to the point that, watching this in the theater, if you made any sort of sound, you were ready for that monster to come and
So when we were
slice
in the
through
theater,
ya.
Josh, when we watched this, I was eating like Taco Bell, like unwrapping stuff.
How dare
So,
you?
How dare you?
that's what I'm meaning is like it was scary to do that in the movie when you're watching it, because you're like something's gonna get me, but also people are like shh.
Yeah,
Dude,
that's it. It's just such a quiet experience in the movie that you don't want to be that person that's, like you said, taking a bite of your popcorn and everyone in the theater. You feel like everyone in the theater can hear you, that chewing. Just like
Have you guys ever like tried to be as quiet as you can, like when you're a little kid, like playing hide and seek or something, and then everything you start hearing everything, like your breathing and just the way you do things? That's how I imagine half of this film is just hearing yourself breathe all the time, or like it's not quiet enough that you hear your blood flow, right? But you're like, that would be so weird to have to be that quiet all the time for me.
yeah. So they just use that. They use silence, and they use like when they do make sounds and the noises that the aliens make, especially like with their ears or whatever, like that sort of like it's. I know it's not, because they're just listening. They're not like using like sonar or something, but it just sounds like that with like the clicking and whatever. That's really freaky, and I love it. And so just like sound obviously is just one of the hugest, craziest parts of this movie that made it so amazing, and it made it such a different experience to watch in the theater. And then I was talking about this earlier with Casey, like the unsung, like amazing part of this movie that made me emotional and that helped with me caring about this family was the music. And they don't have a ton of music in the movie, but they have a couple of main themes which recur. When there's danger, they have that sort of deep low string thing that's going on, and that makes it really intense while also not like drowning out anything that's happening, because hearing what's going on is a huge part of this film, and it's amazing. And then that very slow, beautiful, melodic, just like simple piano, like it's like a soft piano theme that replays multiple times when there are moments in the family, like when she goes to the grave or the place where her brother died, when he is there signing "I've loved you, I've always loved you" to Millicent right before he screams and lets the alien get him. Just that music returning throughout the film, and the way that they use it, because it has to be so light that it doesn't take away, like most films, but this film even more so, that you have to make sure that music is not doing anything to overpower it, and to only use music in the right moments to not overplay. Like they have to let them know that it's being silent, but then when they use it, it's just so beautiful and amazing. that it pushes the point forward of caring about the characters, making it seem intense or whatever it needs to do perfectly. Like, the music is definitely not as much mentioned for this film, and the last couple times that I've seen it or seen scenes from the movie, it's what I've thought about. So, scenes.
Scene kids. That's what it is. Throwback to 2009.
Case, I think it was your question, and now we've gotten back to you. Your favorite part of this film?
I think that my part's going to be a little bit different than your guys's. I want to say that I love what you guys have talked about because I think that those are huge components. I want to highlight a couple of things which we've talked about in ways, but I love the relationship building, especially where like being a teenager is hard enough, but this girl is just like in a quiet world where the technology that's supposed to help her connect with people is not working, and she is at fault for the death of her brother potentially. It's not really her fault, right? But in her mind, I don't know. Is it her fault? That's the argument.
I mean, that was one of the things is like everyone in the movie blamed themselves.
Yeah.
She blamed herself for giving the toy to the kid. The mom blamed herself for not having carried the kid. The dad blames himself for not, paying more attention. Like, I don't think it was really anyone's fault. I think that it just happened, and if you sit there and you fester and you think about it, you can find a way to blame yourself for something. But
and I wasn't there myself,
end,
so
this is all how they're dealing with it a year later. It's
Well-
not like the next week. It was that happened on day 89 or whatever it was. Now we're on day 470, whatever. So we're nearly a year into the future past that moment, and obviously the family is still very strongly dealing with that situation.
Well, and that's what the wild thing is like we're watching this family cope, right? We're watching this family struggle. We're watching this family try to like piece their lives back together and be as constructive as they can without, like, I don't know about you guys, but like all the time I pull Lee at the waterfall when I'm frustrated. I will just yell. I love to yell and let things out. Like, not because I'm like angry and I'm like cussing someone out, but like there's nothing better than a good yell to like de-stress. It's just like, and you can laugh in it. It can be angry. It can be whatever it is. But like, I think what we see about the interpersonal relations of the family are super challenging and very hard, and it gives like a depth of reality that we don't talk about, which is that the grieving process takes a lot of time and that the communication needs to be there even in silence. And that last communication from Lee to her is just one of the most beautiful things to me, because his last act was to save his children, right? And to let his daughter know that he loved her. Another thing that I really thought was interesting, especially when you go into the little details and the world building of this, is Josh and I kind of talked about it. We were like, where did all the sand come from, And like those kind of little thoughts, those little things that we didn't really... I would have never thought about that. Like, also it bothered me I can't wear shoes in this world. Like, I don't know. Like, when I leave my house, I'm in my shoes. That's my thing. And but just kind of those details that they had thought out. Like, when you're watching the movie, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, even after watching this film, like, I'm like, should I like mark down on my floor? Like, where is it gonna squeak? Things like that. And then another thing that I really liked was just the same thing as Vince. So I guess I can't be like, oh, this was just great. But I liked how it was in rural America. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Tremors in that way, where it's just kind of out there in the middle of nowhere. And I love that about it because, sorry, city people, the world doesn't revolve around you. There are lots of us everywhere, and I love that because I can't. It's always funny, like, if I think if a natural disaster is going to happen, I'm like, I'm going to go to my dad's farm. Like, that's where I'm running to very first, is like down to the sticks, because I know that there's stuff down there. And having watched the Hunger Games and kind of reading the books, I'm like, genius. You could go out, hunt a squirrel, like stuff like this. Like, how could I quietly do things? And just wondering about the world and the way it is. And like, for me, like, even though I loved so much about the smallness of it, like, we're here, we're in this little unit of a family, I also want to know like what's going on elsewhere. Like, did the UK build a giant wall to keep the bad guys out? Are the Russians defeating them with their vodka? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just all these things that I want to know. But I really just loved how small but detailed the world we experienced was. Like, the details are what mattered. And like I said earlier, I'm just your casual movie-going person, and I enjoy movies. But the details in this were what made it. The relationships, just the little things is what I loved that made the movie better. And I also love the resourcefulness of the people. They showed that we could really stand up. Like, we don't know anything about these people. Who knows? Maybe they were off-grid hippies living on their own little commune, right? But like, they had to adapt and change things. So the mom is teaching the kid like maths and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. It was just, that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, well, not to backtrack too far, but when you're talking about the relationships and the details, and you mentioned, his final act was to, sacrifice himself for his children and let his daughter know that he loved her. That was obviously a big part of the movie, as far as like letting her know that he obviously didn't blame her for what had happened, and that he was just there to be her father and was always going to be there for her. But it was also foreshadowed earlier when he was talking to his son, when he like asked her like, hey, do you blame her? And he's like, no, of course not, blah, blah, blah. And I love her and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you should like tell her that, like you should let her know. That is the exact same day that they go back, the lights are red, and this entire sequence of events happens, this insane action sequence where most of the movie lives, is when he says that like, hey, you should, tell her and let her know. So not only is it saying, hey, like, I love you guys, like, anyone would if they knew they were about to die at the hands of an alien, but it's a more personal and emotional thing, because he's not just saying it to her, he's saying, hey, I've loved you, I've always loved you, and letting her know that it's this love for her which exists, and letting her know that he does not blame her, and just sort of being clear. And so not only giving her that love, but he's also like giving her the closure of something that she really needed before he passed away. So I thought that was something that was super cool that I hadn't really noticed before, that was kind of foreshadowed in that earlier part of the film.
But what a beautiful thing to be able to know that your dad's last thing he did was let you know that he loved you. Like, what a cool thing, especially in such a scary time. And I also want to talk about how cool that light system was, since you just brought it up. I hadn't thought about that until now. Like, what a cool way to communicate. Like, he had planned this out so well. Like, it was like a unit, and then he had different paths into the house from different areas. And so that's pretty freaking sweet. I have to say that.
And not only that, like, the light system could mean a couple different things. It's just meant to be like, hey, danger, like, get here, help us, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And luckily for her, she was down in the basement, and she turned it on like when she like felt the baby coming. She turned on the lights to red before she even knew that the monsters were there, because she was going down to the basement to turn them on because her water broke, and that's when she stepped on the nail, and she was like, oh crap. And so she dropped like the picture or whatever she had, which I believe is the reason that the alien shows up, was because she dropped that and it shattered. And so even though she's doing her best to hold it in, he still heard that and like, come in, or she, I don't know. But then she goes and she turns it on, and then as she goes to go back upstairs, is one of those jump scares where it just all of a sudden the alien's in the house at the top of the stairs, and she's just like, well, good thing those lights are red, because as soon as he sees it, he'll come a running. So that was crazy. Just so many action scenes in this movie were intense and thrilling. Like the scene where they fall into the corn silo, that's just intense. And with the monster, like you said, like tearing through metal, and them just trying to stay afloat with on their like little Titanic metal raft thing, in the sea of corn, like
Proves that there was room for Jack.
Exactly. And then the end sequence after Lee sacrifices himself, but the monster still finds its way down to them, where she learns and understands that not only like was her dad trying to help her, but this is also the thing that can help us defeat the monsters. The CGI with that monster at the end, when you have the full-fledged look at it, and when that stuff is happening and the armor is just peeling back, it's just so gritty and gruesome, but like like, is it weird to say like gorgeous? Like the way that CGI was, it was just so intricate, and I loved it. And then just the fact that, you know, shotguns it to the face and then leaves us with the ambiguous ending when the other ones come running. There were so many good like scenes in this movie that made it a good action and horror movie, alongside being an incredible family drama that was so original with something that had really never been done before. So,
And I don't feel like any of the jump scares were cheap in this. In
No.
my opinion, I don't feel like they were just cheap for theatrical thrill. I thought that they were there and they were well paced and well positioned.
Raccoon's my favorite one.
Freaking
Maybe not my favorite, but like the first one's like, oh, it's just a raccoon, blah blah blah, and then the freaking where it
Also,
just smushes it.
how many wildlife do you think are just gone now? That's what's wild to me. Like
Probably a lot.
wildlife, wild. I don't know. Vince, any last words? Any last thoughts on this movie?
No, I really like it. I thought it was really well done and really unique, and I feel like a lot of people tried, or a few have tried to copy what they've done, like with Bird Box, like come up with some kind of gimmick that and make a horror movie out of it, and just failed completely. You know, I really did not like Bird Box, but they took a very unique and a very interesting idea and just spun gold out of it. It's just a great movie.
So here we are, just hoping for even a little bit of that same gold in the second one. So
Cross your heart and hope it's good, because we want a good one. Also, I've never seen Bird Box, but I also don't want to go anywhere with the actress who is what's her
Sandra
name?
Bullock?
Sandra Bullock. She gets like kidnapped and has terrible times all the time in movies.
I was gonna say she's great. What do you have against
Dude, she
her?
can
Oh,
drive.
nothing. She's a great
She
actress.
can drive
I'm just,
a bus like
I'm
a
just
maniac.
saying, like, there are times. But I did hear, and I did look into something. I kind of like turned on like one of the features about the sound and stuff like that, and they said that John Krasinski and like the people who are like leading the cast and stuff like that, and the team, they actually were like, you have to be quiet on the set. So they made everyone actually learn to do it more, so that like the people, like the actors, and like it could be more of like the quiet, and it could bring like a different element to the shooting and production of it as well. So yeah, that's cool. Well, guys, let's hope A Quiet Place 2 is great. A Quiet Place 1 was wonderful. If I had 2 thumbs, I'd give them both as a green light from me. But yeah, we'll catch you next time. If there's nothing else to say, once again, thank you so much for tuning into the Pause Rewind Play podcast, and we will catch you next time.